live on Facebook, the Local Bakers series, where today we're going to do plenty of pies with me, and my name is Betty. I'm so glad to have you here. I hope a few more will join us as we move along. And I am going to tell you, Kaylee, that light's not on.
Did you want to know?
I'm just checking to make sure we're copacetic.
Yep,
We are copacetic.
Yep, you are.
Good. I'll stop checking and I'll just keep talking. How's that? I want you to know that I've been a baker all my life, and that's getting to be a long time. My mother was a dietitian. She was a wonderful cook, and then I married into a family with wonderful cooks. But I came to pies kind of through the back door. And I want to tell you a little story about why pies were not something that I tackled. Because I married into the Tidd family, and my mother-in-law was this little tiny woman where at her peak she almost was 4'11", and she was a fabulous baker, as I said, but pies were her specialty. And when she would make the pastry for her pies, she would put all the ingredients into the refrigerator. All of them. The bowl, the ingredients, everything, and get them thoroughly chilled. And I thought, okay, yeah, that sounds good. And then she took them all out of the refrigerator and she would make the bottom crust. And then she would put all the ingredients back into the refrigerator. And I have to tell you, that's where she lost me. I thought, oh my word, that is just way too much work. So I let her, she made the pies, I made the bread, and we lived happily ever after until a friend gave me a recipe. This is in her handwriting for a strawberry pie. This was decades ago. And she just loved this strawberry pie, and so I made one. I thought, well, that's really good, but it's a lot of work. So I ended up kind of morphing, which I hope you're going to do today, is maybe take some tips from me, tips you've seen elsewhere, and come up with your own thing. So I ended up in Guilford. I have ended up being famous for this pie. I hope you can see it. This is my 4-berry pie. It has sliced strawberries, blackberries, blueberries, and raspberries in it. And it is delicious. So today we're going to make one, and I'm going to show you how to do that. And cut to the chase, you do not have to put all the ingredients for the pie crust in the refrigerator and chill them. You just need to go to your favorite grocery store, just saunter over to the dairy case and buy one of these. This is the Pillsbury Pie Crust, and I'm here to tell you they're wonderful. They do a really good job. If you're trying to cut some time out of your crazy schedule and save some time, this is enough for a 2-crust pie. Tip, do not buy the store brand. One time they were out at my store and I got the store brand, and it was, wow, it was not edible. It really wasn't. So spend the extra money and buy the Pillsbury Pie Crust. So that's my tip about pie crust. And then you're going to get it to room temperature. We'll just put this over here, and we're going to start by making, if I can get it out of the bag, we're going to make, I've cut off the end, but it seems to be thinking it's stuck in here. We're going to make a 1-crust pie. Now, you unroll it. See, get it all nicely unrolled. And this pie plate, down to the last pie plate here, so this pie plate is a little bit bigger than 9-inch. This is a 10-inch pie plate, and I'm going to pinch it. I hope you can see this, but I'm just pinching it like this. I'm just pinching it like this, and we're going to go around like that and make a scalloped edge. My mother always used a fork, And I kind of like having it look a little bit fancier after all that work, you know, making that pie crust. You want to just be able to do that. And then you need a fork. Now watch this. This is the hard part. You need to go all around, because what happens is when you bake a one crust pie in the oven, you will have it often fall down and cave in as it's baking. So there are two things you're going to do here. You're going to do this completely around here, and I'm only going to do part of it so we can move things along. You're going to do it all like this, and it is literally going to be covered with all these little holes. And if you're feeling frustrated, you can tap even harder. Okay, let's pretend that that is all done. Here's the most important part about this after this step is it goes in the refrigerator, and it is going to stay. I'm going to trade it. It stays in the refrigerator for at least 20 minutes, and then you're going to put it in your 450-degree oven for 10 minutes, and you are going to end up with a pie crust that looks like this. Okay? And then, now I have taken, I've taken the fruit and I put it all together, and I like this a lot better than a strawberry pie because there's a lot less slicing. And I have the 4 berries right here, and I'm just going to carefully put them into the pie shell. So the only thing that you have to slice is the strawberries. Oh, I hope I did enough. I use a quart of strawberries and a container of blueberries and probably 2 of raspberries because they're my favorite, and 1 or 2 of the blackberries, and it depends what's on sale. My absolute favorite pie of this variety is to go pick raspberries in July and make a raspberry pie. And I have to tell you, I eat raspberry pie for breakfast, lunch, and dinner until it is gone. So, to speed things along, I'll be right back. I have taken the ingredients, and I know Maria is posting the recipe. I'm taking the ingredients for the glaze, which is cornstarch, water, and sugar, and I brought that to a boil, and then I put in 5 tablespoons of raspberry jello, and now it's just this easy. We're going to put the glaze all over. And this, the only tricky part is if you're really fussy, you don't want it to get all over the scallop part of your pie shell. But I've done that many times, and I'm here to tell you it still tasted really, really good. And that is, it's that simple. It is just that simple. All you have to do now is put it in the refrigerator to have it set up. And you have, here we have, two pies, 2 fruit pies. My husband teases me because he's seen me make this pie. He teases me that he knows it's very easy to make. The first thing, the only thing really that's hard about it is you have to rob a bank, because sometimes the fruit is so expensive. I think the most I've ever paid for one of these pies for the fruit was $25. So it's much better to do this in season. So, thinking about this, I was thinking that you might not want to make different year here, haven't we? And so maybe you'd like to do something different. But if you wanted to make an apple pie, well, that's a bit more work. And that was my mother-in-law's specialty, and she's been gone for a long, long time. So what I did was I got out my cookbooks, I got out my online resources, and I made some pies. I made some apple pies. Now, I should tell you about Mabel's apple pie. Okay, she would take her crust out, her ingredients, she would make the bottom crust, and then she would construct, and I use that word purposely. She would construct her pie. She would literally put every apple slice in carefully, and she would go all the way around and construct it. So if you've ever made an apple pie, you know how easy it is to have the domed pie and the pie crust of pie, and the apples have cooked down. So one of my goals with this was to be able to do that without going to all that work. So I had a lot of fun, and I made a lot of pies. The first pie I made was from the kitchen, and somehow I got an email list where they send me recipes and kitchen tips, and I'm trying new recipes all the time. They do a really good job. So the first pie I made was from the kitchen. The second pie was a pie that I had made before from Fine Cooking. And the thing that one did differently than any other pie was it used cider, apple cider in it, which I thought, ooh, that would work really well. But it cooked the apples a little bit with the cider before you put them into the pie shell. And then the third pie I made was from the Apple Lovers Cookbook, which is here at the library. And then my husband and I talked about it, because the first pie to me from the kitchen tasted the best. But was that because I hadn't had any apple pie for a year, or was it because it was really the best? So then I went back and I made a fourth pie. This is the fifth one. I made a fourth pie that my husband and I tried. The first one from the kitchen, the instructions that they gave, the bottom crust was mushy. And the second one was definitely like an applesauce pie. And the Apple Lovers pie, I really liked the cooking time, and it had some similarities to the kitchen. So Maria is posting, I believe, the recipe, and we're going to walk through this. I am going to turn the oven on because I want you to know that in this oven, what we have done, and I think this is really important, is you put in the cookie sheet on the bottom, on the lower rack of the oven first, so that gets hot while the oven is heating up. And then the rack is in the middle. Oh, this is not my oven. 425. Almost there. And then bake again? No, you just leave it. I just leave it. Okay, great. All right, now you're going to be happy to know that I have peeled and cored all the apples first, so that you don't have to watch me to do that. I peel them and core them, and my concern has been that I'm apt to cut too many slices and make the slices too thin. So I tried not to do that today. And then, let me go get it. I peeled and cored 8 cups of apples, and I put them in this bowl, and then I put the sugar. I believe it was 3/4, yes, I remembered, 3/4 a cup of white sugar. I put that in this bowl with the apples, and I stirred it all around and made sure that all the sugar was being used. And then you put them in a colander, and you put them back in the bowl so that they can drain. And I don't think you're going to be able to see this, but there's probably 3/4 of a cup to a cup of juice that is left in here. And I'm going to pour that out and just wipe it out a little bit with a paper towel. Then I'm going to put them back. I love it when I reuse bowls and I don't have to use too many bowls. I'm going to put them back in here. And down here in my magic bag, I have 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, a teaspoon of cinnamon, a quarter of a teaspoon of cardamom, and a fourth of a teaspoon of salt. And I am going to get a little bit messy. I'm going to try not to, but I probably am going to have to end up doing this with my hands. Oh, I had forgotten a very important step. Oh my gosh. Imagine that. All right, we're going to mix this together. And you're going to have to do some pretending. This is working out, this part is working out very well. But what I have forgotten to do was to take this and put it in the pie shell. Where's my other pie shell? Here it is. So you're going to pretend that I've already put this in the pie shell and put it in the refrigerator to chill. You won't forget this if you make one. I know. So I'm going to just put this in here like this. And then I'm not going to do what Mabel did, but I'm going to be kind of careful about how I do this. You don't just dump them in there. You're going to put them in. Can you see how I'm doing this? I'm just putting them in and paying attention, because we don't want that domed effect that my mother always got with her pies. By the way, while I'm doing this, last night I looked up, I have my mother's cookbook, and last night I looked up her pie crust recipe, and it was like the opposite of Mabel's. Eleanor's pie crust recipe was made with a mixer and boiling water. Can you believe it? And I think that's a pretty darn good way to look at this, to realize that you can. My mother made a really good pie. So I think the important thing is we're trying to make our own recipe. Now, I'm trying to dome this up a little bit. Now, that is not quite as much as I thought it was going to be, but that is 8 cups of apples. 1 second. And then this you're going to pretend I had taken out onto this piece of parchment and done this before. Somebody should do a better job reading our notes, shouldn't they? And then I'm going to smooth that out. And I am going to cut 6 vents. This has been in the refrigerator, right? Is that our secret? Okay. It's been in the refrigerator. It's all chilled. And you're going to press it down. Look how nice that looks already. And then, just going to take a minute. My mother would do hers with a fork, and she would always put a little water between the top and the bottom crust so that they would adhere together. I have never found it's a problem when I do the scallop. So we're just quickly going to go around here. Just pinching it. And then we're going to do an egg wash. Now, one of the recipes I used called for an egg wash on the bottom crust, and that was the soggiest pie that I made. Now, I don't know, maybe it was something else I did, but I have found that using an egg wash is that, and here it is. Whoops. Phew, I didn't get any shell on there. And it's going to take a teaspoon of water, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see me, but I'm just going to run that underneath the faucet and pretend it's a teaspoon.
Maria asked one question. Are you attaching to the bottom crust? Which you
Am
did,
I what?
right?
I'm
Are
sorry.
you attaching to the bottom crust?
Yes.
Yeah, they were pinched together, right?
They were pinched together, definitely. Good question. This is one egg with a little bit of water, a teaspoon of water if you want to be precise. And then we have here, we have my handy dandy. And I'm going to put this all over. I did not know this existed until I was asked to do this live. And this is called Demerara, Demerara, cane sugar. It's a coarse sugar. You're not watching me do this. I just put my fingers in here and get a teaspoon and sprinkle it on. I have a lifetime supply now for myself and all of my children. So there we go. And that is ready to go into the oven. And it is going to cook, it is going to cook for 10 minutes at 425, and then we're going to lower the heat for 45 minutes to 350. And the thing that I found with that is that the edges don't get too brown. On some of the first pies that I made, the edges got too brown. And then you have to do the really hard part, which is cooling, putting it on a cooling rack, and you really shouldn't cut the pie until it is cooled, because it's when everything gels together and makes a really nice sauce, kind of yes, it does that, so that it's not all running all over the place. So now,
Oh, she wants me to zoom in on the sugar.
oh yes.
That is the brand.
Yes, and this is Domino. I found it right in the grocery store. I was like thinking, oh my gosh, am I going to have to order that online from King Arthur? And I did not. So I would love to hear if anyone does the egg wash on the bottom shell before you put your apples in, to see, because that's supposed to seal it so that it's not runny. But as I said, the only time I did it, it was the runniest pie that I made. I think that putting the apples with the sugar in the colander and draining them makes a huge difference, so that the apples are, they're not as runny as that they would be. So, oh my gosh, 2 pies. Can you believe it? I wanted to show you a couple of things that the library provides. This is on order. The library has a KitchenAid mixer, which they loan out. And they have bought this attachment, which it's on its way here. This was one of the staff members. And this will peel and core and spiral your apples so that you don't have to do it by hand. And if you've gone apple picking this fall and you have way too many apples and they're starting to go bad, the library has a dehydrator, which you can borrow, which I have used, which is just wonderful. You can just slice those apples and dehydrate them. And of course, they have fabulous cookbooks with lots of wonderful recipes in them. So I hope that if anyone has any other questions, otherwise with only a few mistakes. I have pulled off my first Facebook Live. Thank you very much for joining me.
Oh, hold on. Okay. And oh wait, hold on, Betty, it's not ended.
It's not ending.